Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. A warm welcome to all of you. We are live. The webinar is just about to start, and I would like to introduce myself and carry on and introduce our speaker for this afternoon. So all of you are here listening to Miss Vanessa Reis, who is a fantastic speaker. A lot of you would know her already. And I'm just going to say a few things before Vanessa starts the webinar. A couple of technical, some technical information I'd like to share with you. One of those is, before you ask me, yes, all of you will be getting a certificate of attendance after this webinar is over, probably the next few days. And you might even get a recording of today's session. So wherever you are in this world, I warmly welcome you to a webinar that is going to be hosted by Vanessa Reis. I hope you enjoy it. Please feel free to be as interactive as possible. Any questions you might have, just key in that chat box. That chat box is your friend. I'm the moderator, and I will be looking at the chat box, and we will leave all of the questions right to the end, and I'll make sure that each and every one of them is answered by Vanessa. Now, Vanessa, as all of you know, has been a speaker for many, many years. She's a PhD holder, a language teacher, a teacher trainer, and a superstar as far as I'm concerned. I'm really, really looking forward to hearing her speak. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, teachers from all over the world, I would like to present to you Miss Vanessa Reis. Vanessa, the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, Sushil. It's absolutely wonderful to be able to be with you today. And I'd just like to check that you can all see me and you can see the PowerPoint. So could you please put my teacher heart at rest and just type in the chat box if you can, right? Thank you so much, Natasha. Hi, Paula. Thank you. Right, it's wonderful to be with you today, and I would like to welcome you all online and ask you where you are speaking from. So if you could type that in the chat box, and you'll see that I'll be inviting you to type in the chat box many, many times. Now let's see if I can see that. Sushil, I'm going to ask you to help me because for some reason, my chat box is only showing emojis. So if you don't mind just reading out to me, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
This is bringing back COVID all over again. I think you teachers remember what I'm speaking about, where you speak to a black screen, right? Which is, oh, that was a difficult time. Right, so thank you so much for having joined us today. And today we'll be speaking about using video in the classroom. So today's webinar is entitled From Screen Time to Learning Time and Making the Video Work in the Coursebook. Now, I'm going to start off by asking you to tell me, could you please type in the chat box, what your energy level feels like now on a scale of 1, which is pretty low, to 10, and that means you've had coffee, you've had lunch or breakfast or dinner, depending on where you are in the world, and you are feeling absolutely fantastic. So on the screen, you can see that I am a 9. I'm really excited to be with you today. Now, we'll come back to this at the end of the webinar, and we are going to see whether your energy level is going to go up or whether you are going to work very, very hard and it is going to go down, but you've learned something new, or whether it stays more or less the same because you are consistent. So I'm going to ask Sushil to tell me what kind of energy level we have in the chat box so I know whether I should ask you lots of questions or not. Sushil, can you help?
Yes,
please?
Absolutely. So first of all, I wanted to read out where everyone is from. We've got people from Argentina with us today, from Morocco, from Sweden, all over the world. Now, some of you might not be able to type in the chat box. Do not worry. Carry on as you're doing now. Just write it down in that question box. I can see everything. Anna Isabel says 8. That's wonderful. Juan Bernal says 9. And Isabel, 10.
10. Wow.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, yes.
volunteer today then, right? This is amazing. A 10, that is really, really good. Right, so without further ado, let's have a look at the objectives for today. So we'll be together for an hour and we're going to start off by discussing the mixed ability classrooms that we teach in and the need to engage our students. And then we're going to move on to discuss the importance of an inclusive and very scaffolded approach to learning. And this is important because we want to catch our teens at being good at English. And finally, I'm going to invite you to be my students and to try out a few practical activities using the videos in the course book. So can you give me a thumbs up in that chat box showing me that you're ready to begin? Aha, Joey, Natasha, Paula, my good Lord, this chat box is moving faster than light itself. So your wish is my command. Let's begin then. Right, now, you know, us teachers, we love asking questions, right? And I can see you nodding there. Did you know that on average, we teachers ask an average of 300 to 400 questions every day? Now, if you actually do the maths, you'll see that that comes up to about 0.7 questions a minute. And because I'm a teacher, you know what I'm going to do now. I'm going to ask you a question, and I just want to say hello to Haifa, who's saying hello from Tunisia. I'm going to ask you a simple question. And the question is, how do we teachers acquire, how do we students, sorry, acquire languages, right? So what would you say? What is the secret? What helps students learn languages? Could you type in the chat box, please? And hopefully I'll be able to see. And if I can't, I'll ask Sushil to share what you're typing in. So, you know, what are the secrets? What boosts language learning? What helps us learn language a little bit better?
Brilliant. I'm just going to read out some. Yeah, I'm going to read out some of the answers here. Vanina says the need to communicate. Hasna says listening. And Maggie says usage and interaction. So lots and lots of information, yes.
This is why I love teachers. You always know the right answer. I wish you were in my classroom today. And you will see that the experts agree with you because there are 3 big secrets for learning a language. And the first is what you were saying, right? Listening to language. In other words, increasing students' exposure to language. Now, this is all good and well, but as Krashen warns us, that exposure needs to be through comprehensible input. And I think Hassan has just said that it is through listening and speaking, right? Ignacio is saying to live the language in class. And I agree with you, Ignacio. And Ethan is saying communication. But it is important to remember what Krashen is saying. That communication, that speaking in class has to be comprehensible input. In other words, it has to be like Goldilocks's porridge. It can't be too difficult, otherwise students give up. It can't be too easy, otherwise they look bored. It needs to be just right. In other words, at their language level and perhaps even a little lower so that they don't feel like they're working the whole time. And I hope that this makes sense to you, right? If it does, please can you type in the chat box? Yeah, Ethan is saying that it improves your cognitive ability. Nalida, you're saying that you can't write in the chat box, but I can actually see you. So I think that you can, right? Okay, now that's the second point that boosts language learning, but we can't forget that learning languages is a process that takes time, right? You don't just become good at it, no matter how frustrating that may be. So we need to scaffold language learning, which means that we need to remember that when babies learn languages, they first start off by learning words, right? Then they start learning sentences, and only after this do they learn the text. So this is important for us to bear in mind in class as well. It is not enough to just teach them the language, but we need to teach them that language um, within a manner that they can actually keep up with, right? So a very scaffolded approach. Now, we know all this and we do all this, but I wonder if you've ever seen a teenager like this teenager in a classroom. And I'm saying in a classroom just in case our supervisors are listening, right? Of course, not in our classrooms. They are always very engaged. In a classroom that we just happen to walk by, right? Could you type in the chat box if you've seen one of these, right? And Sushil perhaps can be my eyes and ears now, all right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we've all seen one or two of these in class. So then the question is, what makes teenagers feel bored? Now, there isn't just one answer, but I think you'll agree with me that there's a whole variety. And I'm going to ask you again to type in the chat box if you agree, and ask Sushil just to speak out for me. Now, the first reason that I've sort of encountered is boring content. And that boring content doesn't necessarily come from our content, but have you noticed how long those programs that we teach are? And also sometimes how there are certain activities in the course book that appeal more to one class than to another class. So it's not always easy to have content that everybody adores, right? And that doesn't really depend on us teachers. Then there's another issue that I found, and that sometimes is teenagers or the students, because it doesn't have to be teenagers. I mean, I've seen this with young learners as well, although on a smaller scale. Sometimes the problem is that they bring language learning trauma with them. And Maggie is saying, yes, she sees this lack of interest as well, right? But sometimes teenagers bring trauma, past trauma. The experience hasn't gone well, and so they give up trying. At the beginning of this year, I had a student who came to me and said, Miss Vanessa, I need to speak to you. You need to understand one thing. I am not good at languages. My mother wasn't good at learning languages. My father wasn't good. My grandmother wasn't good. It is genetic. In my family, we don't learn languages. So you can see that there's a lot of confidence here and skills. I see Paula laughing there. Yeah, Paula, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but I mean, this is a very real problem that some students have. And when they feel this strongly about this trauma that they bring, they usually give up, right? And they give up because it's easier to say, oh, I got a bad mark in the test, but I didn't even try. So of course I get a bad mark, than it is to admit I worked hard, I studied, but I still didn't get the type of mark that I'd like to get, right? Now, Aribi is saying also, if the lesson content isn't relevant to their personal lives, and Aribi, I totally agree with you. And this brings me to the next point, which is a limited approach to learning, right? Sometimes the content that we have isn't pertinent to their lives, but sometimes the problem is also that we've chosen a particular learning style which isn't their learning style, and we can't do all the learning styles at the same time in the classroom. So there might be moments when our approach isn't the best approach for the kids that we are teaching. And whether we like it or not, if we have big standardized tests, we need to prepare students for the test. And we all know that tests, even if they are Cambridge tests, are not the most exciting things on the planet. And it is natural that teenagers will feel bored on these days, right? So I wonder if you agree with me. If you do, please just type in the chat box so I don't feel alone here. Now, if we know this about teenagers, thank you, then we need to start and think about what actually appeals to them. And what are they like? Well, from my experience, they have opinions about anything and everything. So it's not that they don't speak out, they do when they're interested in the topic. They're also curious about things that are going on around them in the world. And sometimes they'll come into my classroom and ask me things that are not about what I want to teach them on that day, but they heard on TV someone who said, or they read the lyrics of a song, or they heard a song and they don't know what this means. So they are motivated to learn if they are curious. And of course, they belong to the TikTok generation. I don't know if you've noticed. Oh, I see some hearts there. You have, which means that they are very visual learners. And if this is true, then we want to use the resources that come with our course books to appeal to these needs. So today we're going to be having a look at how we can use videos to engage our students, but we want to use these videos with a twist. Oops, oh, sorry, I think I've pressed something which I didn't mean to on my computer. And the idea here is that we are going to use videos to surprise the students in class, to appeal to their curiosity, and also to make them active. And this means that we are going to have to scaffold the activity so that every student can be good at English, so that everybody can get it right, right? So if this is the case, I'm going to ask you the most important question in today's webinar. Are you ready for a difficult question? My question is, I know that some of you have only just met me, and I know that this is stretching it a little bit, but do you trust me enough to be your teacher today? In other words, are you willing to open up your minds and your hearts to what I'm about to say? And it makes me so happy to see these emojis going up and down. Uzma, Satinek, Ahmed are all saying yes. Thank you so much for trusting me. Now, I'm going to ask you to divide your brain in two. I mean, not literally, figuratively, right? Half of your brain is a teacher brain. In other words, once a teacher, always a teacher, right? My husband is always saying, oh, it's impossible to go anywhere with you, because if I see a little paper or brochure in English, I just pick it up and think, oh, this might make a nice little lesson for my class. So keep that teacher brain on. Keep on thinking about, could I use this with my students? And if your answer is, not really, don't stop at a no. Think, how would I have to adapt it so that I could use it with my students? Okay? Right, now the other half of your brain, could you pretend that you are a teen again? And could you experience the activity as a teen would? Right? So are we ready to get going in this class of ours today? Right, so today, let me start off with your teacher brain. And today what we want to do is begin a new unit. And as you can see, this unit is about school, the most exciting thing on the planet, right? And what we want to do today is to teach this new target vocabulary. In other words, school supplies, stationery, right? Now, I'm going to ask you to type in the chat box, if you had to go and teach this lesson tomorrow, what strategy would you use to introduce this vocabulary in class? And of course, this would depend on the time that you have, and of course, it would depend on the students that you have. So whatever strategy you would use, could you please type this out in the chat box? And I'm going to ask Sushil to help me because I can't see the chat box all the time.
Yes, I'm here, right here. Brainstorming is one of those. Amalia says brainstorming.
Hassan
and
is saying
matching.
Right. And Beate is saying the school anagram. Oh, I love that, Beate. And Jessa is also saying visual aids, right? So speaking to this TikTok generation in which they can actually see the vocabulary. Right, so these are all great ideas, and I wish I could actually see that. Oh, the leader is saying using realia. Yeah, that works as well, doesn't it? Right, now, would you like to see what I would do with my teenagers if I had to teach this lesson tomorrow? Vanina is saying, asking students about the things that they have in their bags. Oh yes, bringing in their personal experience, right? Okay, now before we go and have a look at what I would do, let's please not forget how we learn language. In other words, Goldilocks' porridge needs to be just right. It can't be too easy, it can't be too difficult. So we are going to want to teach vocabulary, oh dear, at a word level, but we're going to want to teach it within natural sentences in a communicative context that they can relate to, so that these words are not just a long list of words, right? So I'm going to challenge you to activate your student's brain. Are you ready to go to the brain gym? And I'm going to ask you to make a list of as much stationery or school supplies that you can think of in English. And when you are ready, can you please type it into the chat box? So for example, a pen and a pencil and anything else you can think of. Let's see if we can get to 20 today. And Sushil will help me if I can't see this, right? So I see a stapler, that's a good one.
That was
Anything
me.
else? Oh, was that you? Oh, thanks,
That was
Sushil.
me, yes. Flashcards.
Flashcards, yeah. Oh, flashcards are popular here. Colors, perhaps colored pencils, right? And markers, I agree. A sharpener, an eraser, a pencil, a rubber, a pen, notebooks, wow, markers, rulers, sticky notes. Saida, I love your English. Oh, Nalita's also saying sticky notes. I'm so impressed by these students. Right, so the idea here is to activate their vocabulary. Now, my dear students, today we are going to watch a video. But before we watch the video, I'd like you to go back to these words in the chat box, right? And I would like you to imagine that you are the video director. Which of these words would you put in the video? Now, my dear students, please do not waste time looking for the right answer. There is no way that you could know what this director has put in the video. What I would like you to think of is to try to predict what is in the video or not. And it's perfectly fine if you don't guess, because, well, you might not have trained your mind reading skills. So I don't know if you've noticed what I've just done. I'm getting the children to think, or in this case, the teenagers, to think critically. And I'm also showing them that there isn't just one right answer, right? So Eham has just put posters, tape, right? Think to yourself, how many of these words would appear in the video and which words would appear in the video? Have you thought? Are you ready? Right, now we're going to watch the video and we're going to see whether your predictions are correct. Are you ready? Now, please notice that I am going to show you the video, and now I'm speaking to your teacher brain, but I'm going to show you the video without any sound. And why? Well, because we always have those good students who think that everything is very, very easy. And so I want to challenge them and keep them in my lesson before we move on, right? So I'm going to show you the video. Are you ready? Check and see whether the words that you thought are in my video. Have a look. Right, let's go. So you could imagine the students are expecting to see sound. They start off by telling me, oh, Vanessa, there's no sound. And I go, yes, yes. Look. In other words, activating their visual skills. So you can see rubber that somebody put in, notebook. Do you know the word for this object? And what about the word for this object? Do you know that word too? Right, and now some students will, others won't. Oh, look at this object. Aha, does anybody know how we say that in English? And if you do, you can type in the chat box. Look, more words. Do you know how we say these ones in English? Right now, what I want to do is to show students that even if they don't know all the words, there are some words that they will already know, even if those words are just paper as you've put, or pens, or markers, right? Oh, look at this one, a math set. And this is a dictionary, right? Okay, now, as the children start becoming interested, our good students would be able to say all of these words. But what about the other students who need a little more scaffolding? So now I'm going to invite you to look at the video again, and this time to hear if the words that you are thinking of are the words that appear in the video. And each time you hear one that is, can you please give me a thumbs up or a smiley or a heart emoji? You can choose the one that you want. So here goes. Remember, if you hear a word that you thought would be in the video, give me a hearts up or a thumbs up or a smiley emoji.
Good morning, can I help you?
Yes, these things, please.
So that's a rubber, an exercise book,
Mind readers.
12 coloured pencils, and an Avengers pencil case. Is there anything else?
Oh, and a new calculator.
Thank you.
Calculator. Had you predicted that one? So that might be a new word.
Morning. So that's a ruler, 4 blue pens, 2 exercise books,
And look at that chat box.
and a French dictionary. Is that everything?
Yes, thanks.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi, I've got these things.
So that's a geometry set, a French dictionary,
Geometry set. Well
and a
done,
pencil
Elliot.
case. Is that everything?
Yes,
Thank you.
Right, so do you see what we've just done? We've involved students and they are in the center of the learning process. In class, I just asked them to show me with a thumbs up if they had guessed that word. Now, the strong students already knew most of this vocabulary, perhaps not geometry set. So there's something there for them, but there's also something for my weaker students. And because they can hear the words in the video and some of those words are repeated, there's a higher chance that they'll be exposed to vocabulary and be able to say at least one thing. In other words, I'm setting up my lesson so that I can catch everyone at being good at English. And what I've really done is that I've taken my vocabulary and transformed it into a listening viewing exercise in which that vocabulary is presented in context. And because of this support that I'm giving them, this visual support, because of the activation that I'm doing, I am making my classroom more inclusive for everyone so that not only those good students have their hands up in the air, but all of my students have at least one thing to say, even if that is simply the word pen or notebook, as you saw. Right, so back to your teacher brain. I'm going to ask you to type in the chat box whether you would be able to use this activity with your students, and ask Sushil to help me in case technology is being, well, shall we say, difficult today? Right, so I think I can see one reaction. The leader is saying yes, Natasha's saying yes, Vanina is saying yes as well. So
a lot of yeses. And Elegance Personified has said, we don't have this facility at school.
oh dear. Well, the good news is that students have access to these videos at home on their phones. And we are going to be speaking about flipping the lesson in a minute or two. So you might not be able to do that in class, but you could challenge them to do this at home, right? Okay, so let's move on to the second activity. Now, before we go there, let me just ask you if you've ever felt like this. And let me confess that I feel stressed out every day because of two things, really. Firstly, the program where I teach here in Portugal is really long and never ending. And I might be able to actually get through it if I didn't have 30 mixed ability students in my classroom. This makes it really, really difficult to get through. And then there's another problem that I face. I don't know if you face this, and if you do, please can you type in the chat box. Because students buy the course books, parents expect you to do from page 1 till page 129 all of the pages and all of the exercises. I see a few thumbs up in the chat box as well. Right, so this makes me feel a little stressed out to be able to get through the whole course book. And the problem with that is that there's so many exercises in the course book that then I don't have a lot of time to do the production exercises in class. So those speaking and writing exercises. And the good news is that thanks to these videos, we can actually flip learning and get students to do these simple vocabulary exercises at home with the help of a video. I see Elegance is agreeing as well, right? Yeah, you have the same problem. Well, me too. Right, so what are we going to do then? Well, we're going to ask them that they go home and do homework, but this homework isn't difficult homework. No, none of that. We're going to ask these TikTokers to get out their phones and to watch a video. Sit back, relax, and do the exercise. Now, I'd like you to have a look at the exercise, which is just labeling the different parts, right? And I'd like you to just watch the video, or at least a little bit of the video, and then type in the chat box whether you think that this could help your students pre-prepare this vocabulary at home so that then they can come into the classroom and they're ready to try the speaking exercise. So have a look at the video. Here goes.
Computers have lots of different parts and each has a special job. Some will be inside the computer and others will be outside. Some parts are attached by wires and others are wireless. The part of a computer that controls what it does is the CPU. The monitor is an output device. It shows us information from the computer on the screen. The speakers are the devices where the sounds come out of. They are sometimes built into the monitor. The keyboard is an input device. We use it to type words, numbers, and symbols. We click the buttons on the mouse to make choices and give the computer information. The printer is an output device. The computer sends information to the printer where it is printed on paper. The webcam is the part of a computer we use to take photos, make videos, or talk to a person online.
Right. A simple video. And I agree with some of you who are typing in the chat box that the students sometimes find the course book boring. But with activities like this, they're literally bringing that page to life. So now for the big question, do you think that your students would react, right? And Vanina is saying this is useful because she teaches English as specific purposes to engineering students, yeah? And computer parts, as you are saying, is a topic that they enjoy. So I'm really using technology along with topics that are of their interest to capture the students' attention, right? And now I will have time to do a little bit of speaking in class, because all I'm doing is just recapping and correcting the exercise. Right, Elegance, I'm so pleased that your students will like it. Mine do too. They keep on asking me, when are we doing video homework again? Right, now, in my school, we need to please parents, and so we've decided to become a Cambridge school. Is that true for you as well? Now, Cambridge exams are fantastic, but they do give us a lot of work to prepare students for them. And one of the things that we need to do is prepare them for that speaking moment, right? Maggie is saying it also lowers the cognitive load. And Maggie, this is absolutely true. This is why we need to have this inclusive approach to learning, right? Not only the good students can do my homework, but now everybody can, because they can actually watch the video 10 times if they want to. Right, now let me go back to what I was saying. As a Cambridge school, we need to prepare students for the speaking moments. And you know that there are two moments in this exam, a more controlled speaking exercise and then a freer speaking exercise between both of the students. And of course, as experienced teachers, we know that we need to present language in a communicative context. We know that we first need to develop controlled speaking practice, and then we can move on to freer practice. But I wonder if what happens to me happens to you too. And this is when I try to do speaking in class, I always have the same 2 or 3 good students shoot up those hands and speak. And they dominate the class. And they speak a lot. I see Uzma has this problem as well. But these are not really the students that need to practice. The ones that really need the practice are quieter and feel more intimidated. Elegance is saying that the same thing happens to her, right? So then this means that what we really need are speaking exercises which are doable. In other words, they are very scaffolded and they are guided, but they keep on being appealing for the students. So in today's speaking exercise, if you will agree to be my students again, we are going to be doing the speaking exercise on page 33 of our course books. Now, let me zoom that in for you. And the idea here is that we're going to be doing an interview. I don't know if you see the Cambridge model here, in which one person is asking questions and the other one is answering, as the Amalia does, right? And you need to speak about your favorite app. Now, I'm going to show you the video that comes with the course book, and as you watch it, I'd like you to activate your teacher brain and to think about whether this video would help some of your students ace the task. Okay, are you ready? Yeah, I agree. Weaker students tend to be a little shy. Right, so here's the video. Are you ready to watch? Remember the question, would the video help your students be able to do the speaking task? Here goes.
What are you doing, Molly?
I'm uploading some photos on Instagram.
Why do you like Instagram so much?
Because I like taking really cool pictures and following people through live updates.
So how do you use it?
Well, I share little things with my friends that tell them something about me.
Can you tell us what you have just shared?
Well, yesterday I had a really bad hair day, so I thought I'd share that with my friends.
Has anyone posted a comment yet?
No, they haven't, but give them a minute.
And which celebrities do you follow on Instagram?
Oh, you know, silly people like the Kardashians, but also cool people like Lady Gaga.
So how long do you spend on Instagram every day?
Well, I try to spend 30 minutes maximum on it every day, but sometimes it's really difficult to stop.
What are the best and the worst things about Instagram?
The best thing about Instagram is that you never feel lonely because you're always in contact with your friends.
And the worst?
The worst thing is that people think they are really good artists when they aren't.
Well, thank you for answering all of my questions, Molly. And I look forward to seeing more of your bad hair days on Instagram.
Sure.
Right, so the big question. Would this help your students do the speaking task? And as you can see, the speaking task is write some questions to ask about apps, and then after think about it and practice asking and answering, right? So, oh, Renata, yours would, Aida as well, Uzma too, right? Let me check. Maggie is saying yes. Well, I'm so pleased that this would work for you, but Elegance is saying that it would be a guideline. I'm going to confess that this would help a small portion of my students, but the weaker ones, this is not enough for them. They need more scaffolding to even consider speaking out in that crazy English language in front of their peers, right? So what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to invite you to watch the video again, but this time, if you like, you can read the subtitles. And as you do this, think about whether this approach would help you fish out more students who'd be able to do the task. Let's have a look.
What are you doing, Molly?
I'm uploading some photos on Instagram.
Why do you like Instagram so much?
Better for your students?
Because I like taking really cool pictures and following people through live up.
Oh dear.
So how do you use it?
Well, I share little things with my friends that tell them something about me.
Can you tell us what you have just shared?
Well, yesterday I had a really bad hair day, so I thought I'd share that with my friends.
Has anyone posted a comment yet?
No, they haven't, but give them a minute.
Right, and you get the hang of this. So I'm going to ask you to type in the chat box whether this would help you motivate a few more students to try the task. And I see some emojis there with Zina Labine and Grace as well, right? Let's see, Ignacio. Oh, this would definitely help my students. Vanina is saying for sure, right? But let me confess, I would still have 2 or 3 students who would not be able to do the task. And so for these students, I need something which simplifies the task even more. I'm not changing the task, I'm just giving them more scaffolding. And if you have a look at these videos in the course books, you'll see that there's a fantastic tool, which is the role play that you can see on the screen. And what I would say to these students or these weaker classes is that I am going to promote you to professional actors. And you are going to role play the task, but your task is going to be to read the teleprompter and to do the audio. And for this, I could lower the volume and students could do the task, or they could begin by listening to the volume and repeating in their inner ear before I ask them to do that. And I'm going to ask you to be my students and to just try for a little while. So you are going to hear this wonderful English pronunciation, and your task is to repeat in your inner ear, or if you're feeling confident, to say it out loud at home, or if you're in a public place, perhaps not out loud, right? Let's have a look.
What are you doing, Molly?
I'm uploading some photos on Instagram.
Why do you like Instagram so much?
Because I like taking really cool pictures and following people through live updates.
So how do you use it?
Well, I share little things with my friends that tell them something about me.
Can you tell us what you have just shared?
Well, yesterday I had a really bad hair day, so I thought I'd share that with my friends.
Has anyone posted a comment yet?
No, they haven't, but give them a minute.
And which celebrities do you...
Right, so you can see that thanks to this technology, I can now introduce an extra step and get them to first role play, or I can even substitute the activity with this activity so that I can catch the students at being good. So yes, Ihrami, it's kind of a blank text that students are using, right? Did you want to say something, Sushil?
I was just going to point out, Hasne has said we can use blank text, and I thought that was a really good idea as well. And
Yeah.
And the other
Right.
comment was maybe give the weaker students short sentences to perform their role. So that could be another alternative. Yeah.
This is exactly what we're doing in this structured way by giving them access to the dialogue. They don't need to remember the whole thing. They can just see that sentence. And this is the beginning of controlled speaking practice, right? They don't need to think of the ideas. All they need to do is to read what they're seeing and say it out loud in English. And as they start these baby steps, they start moving towards being able to do the task by themselves. So what are our classrooms like? Well, what we want to do is make sure that they are inclusive, that all the students feel safe, and that we're using the technology and tools, and in this case, the videos that come with the course books, to give them English at a level that they can handle. And of course, as teachers, it is our responsibility for choosing the level of scaffolding that will help our students be good at English. And I think you'll agree with me that in some classes, the subtitles would be enough, but in other classes, they'd need the entire script. Or perhaps even let students choose what they want to do by themselves on their phones because they have access to these videos, right? So baby steps to make sure that all of the students are involved in the classroom. So you know what I'm going to ask you now. Would you be able to use these videos and these strategies with your students, right? Can you type in the chat box, and perhaps Sushil can help me. Oh, I see lots of emojis coming up. Yes, Ismet is saying yes, Susanna, Iwa, Amalia, Fatima. Wow, great. Right, now time is flying by, but I think we still have time for one last activity. And this last activity targets those freer speaking activities, which we know we also need to train students to do. And this is why in my school, at the end of the term, we have a speaking presentation that they have to do. And throughout the term, sometimes we have a few show and tell like activities. I wonder if you do this at your school as well. And if you do, perhaps you can type in the chat box that you do, right? Now, these are fantastic activities, I love them, but some of my students go into a panic state when I announce that they'll have a speaking activity, right? Vanina is saying that she also has this in her school. Right, now, why do they panic when they have to speak? In my opinion, there are three big reasons. The first reason is that blank page syndrome. What am I going to say? Right? They don't know what they want to say. Sometimes they even call me and ask me what I think they should say, right? Maggie, you do too? Right. The second problem is what Vanina is saying. They aren't confident, right? So how do I say this in English? I don't know how to say this in English. Can you tell me how to say this in English? And then we can't forget that they are teens. So Susan is saying there's the public speaking thing, especially in this age group where they need to belong to that pack mentality. So Maggie, you're completely right. They have low self-confidence in front of their peers. And so if I want to catch them at being good at English, I'm going to have to follow those three language acquisition principles. In other words, First, I'm going to have to expose them to English. Then I'm going to have to give them comprehensible inputs that they can really understand. And finally, I'm going to have to give them baby steps. In other words, I'm going to have to guarantee that the good students can watch a little bit of the video and switch it off because they already know what to do. But I also have to guarantee that my weaker students can try the activity in a different way. All right. So are you ready to be my students again? Today, we are going to do another activity in our course book on page 33. And this time we are going to speak about a personal experience that we've had. Now, the first thing that we're going to do is prepare the scene and activate students' vocabulary and ideas so that we don't just tell them to speak. And this, of course, is easy because they have exercise 1, 2, and 3 in the course books that do just that and that you can see on the screen. But then I'm going to have to get them to do the speaking task as well. How many times have we explained the task to them and they nod, and we ask them if they understand and they nod, and then we tell them to get started and they start whispering to the person next to them, what did the teacher just say? What do we have to do again? Oh, I see you nodding. This happens to you too, right? Now, the good news is that we are going to be able to use the video in the course book to show them what they have to do, rather than simply telling them what they have to do. And Susan, this video is going to complement the prompt and the rubrics that you've just typed about in the chat box, right? So I'd like you to just watch a little bit of the video. We don't have to watch the whole thing. I think you'll get the idea. And to see whether you think that this video would help your students understand what this speaking task looks like. In other words, would it work as a benchmark for this is the level that I need you to do, and this is what you should try to do. Are you ready? Let's go.
Hey everyone! So here I am again, a little out of breath. Well, as I told you in my last video, I just tried skydiving. And I have to tell you, it was the best experience ever. Here, where I live, you have to be 16 to go tandem skydiving, which is a sort of jump for student divers, because you are connected to an instructor via a harness. My family gave me this as a present for my 16th birthday. Aren't they the best? Anyway, I must say, I was quite nervous before I jumped. While we were on the plane, the instructor talked to me. He said something like, Laura, we have practiced for this, and you're ready. I'm sure you are. Then I felt a little bolder. I just took a deep breath, and we jumped.
Wow.
At first, it was windy, of course. But then I started experiencing this feeling of freedom. I mean, there's nothing like it. While you're in freefall, it's very noisy and you can't talk. But once the parachute opens, then it becomes quieter and you can talk and you just want to share your feelings because there's really nothing like it. I can say that it was extremely exciting, but at the same time, peaceful. The view is amazing and I'm positive that I'll never forget it. And physically, it felt as if I were floating, you know? I really thought I'd be terrified whilst going down, but in fact, I didn't feel scared at all. And now I still feel that excitement just an adventure like this can give you. Well, tandem instructors usually wear a camera and you can get a quite awesome footage of the whole experience. They've just sent me photos of my experience here. So let's check them out. Well, that's all. Hope you have enjoyed learning about my experience. And maybe one day you can try that too. Oh, but don't forget to look for a safe place and a licensed instructor to do that with you. All right, see you soon.
Right, so the question was, do you think that this video helps set a benchmark for the speaking task? In other words, this is what a good speaking task looks like, right? And I see from the chat box that there are lots of nodding there. And this is important. Rather than describe what we want students to do with words that they just zone out and go somewhere, I don't know where they go to, in cyberspace, we're actually showing them what being good at English looks like, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
People ask me, how do you teach students creativity? My answer is, well, you don't. You expose them to creativity. And I think you'll agree that this video was quite nice and creative. It used visuals very nicely. So if they come and do their speaking presentation, they can also bring their visual videos. Yeah, it exposes them to the language. And I see another great idea here. You see, this is what I love about us teachers. We always get good ideas. Wouldn't this be a fantastic video to work on group words, looking at verbs and nouns, in other words, to extend a vocabulary? And I would agree with you, a fantastic opportunity. Now, remember,
Hey everyone. So
that if you have weaker students, then you can always use the subtitles. Let me just show you 2 seconds of that. So
here I am again, a little out of breath.
Oh,
Here I am again, a little out of breath. Well, as I told you in my last video, I just tried skydiving.
right, so in this case, if the student is weaker, then you can always give them the choice of watch the video without the subtitles or give yourself a break. It's been a long day. Watch the video with the subtitles. Look at the different sections and then think about what you want to speak about. Then compare it with this video. What I've noticed is that since I've started using these videos, the quality of my students' presentations have shot up. Right? I now catch more students at being good at English. And although they might still make a few language mistakes, they are trying. And what we are doing is giving them a model that they can then cross with the instruction of the exercise and personalize. And I think that you'll agree that tandem skydiving is a pretty cool thing. So even those boys that look bored in class, look up and watch this video. So our time together is coming to an end, which means that we need to go back to those energy levels. Do you remember that we started off with a 9? And I remember there was even somebody who had a 10, and there was an 8 as well. What has happened to those energy levels? Are they the same? Have they gone up because you have a good idea to use tomorrow in class? Have they gone down because it's the end of a long day or because you've got up very early to watch this webinar and you still haven't had coffee? How are you feeling now? Right? And I would agree with this comment in the chat box. Videos keep them focused on the language. Videos are placing them at the center of learning, but as active participants, not just as passive viewers of the video. Right, so it seems that these energy levels are still a 10. Well done, Isabel. So what is the moral of today's story? Well, to get students being good at English, the place to start is by increasing their exposure. And the videos in the coursebook are a fantastic tool to do just that. Then we're going to be using these videos not in the normal way, but in a way that challenges them to think critically and to actually create language by turning down the volume, by getting them to predict what is in the video, but after we've activated language, or even by giving them models to actually go and speak. And so what we are doing is that we are transforming learning English into a very doable and inclusive experience for all of our students in the classroom, and not just the good ones. So remember those features, the subtitles and the role play scripts. They really can go a long way in the classroom. If you're interested about the pedagogical approaches that I followed in today's webinar and that I follow in my teaching, then I've included this slide with a few very interesting references and 2 articles about using videos in the classroom if you'd like to find out a little bit more. And so I guess that the time has come for me to love you and leave you and say thank you so much for having come online today. It's been an absolute pleasure to be with you. I hope that you've enjoyed our time together as much as I have. And I would now like to thank ELT Publishing for giving us these fantastic opportunities to speak to fellow colleagues all over the world and to cross experiences and really to freshen up ideas for our classrooms. Our students appreciate this very, very, very much. Right, so if you have any questions, this would be a fantastic time to type them in the chat box if you haven't done so already, right?
Right. So for those of you who have questions for Vanessa, write them in the question box right now. I'll read them out, and then she'll be sharing her wise words with all of you in terms of answering your questions. Do not hesitate. I see a lot of people have said great session, great webinar, wonderful ideas. That's really, really lovely. Perhaps I'll have 2 questions coming up for you, Vanessa. Can I read them out?
Yes, please do.
Okay, so one of the questions is, how can I turn video work into speaking when my students are shy or afraid of making mistakes? You did mention it during your session earlier. Perhaps you could just say 2 words about it when students are shy or afraid of mistakes.
Yeah, I think that the secret is using the video to increase their exposure. And then choosing videos. I really like these that come with the course books because they are short. They shouldn't be very long videos, and they have to be like Goldilocks's porridge. In other words, at their level of speaking, or have tools that will lower the level without changing the task. So for me, these the subtitles really help lots of students because it makes that language that they hear more doable, right? So they're able to see it, and if they aren't, then they have the role play. And I think that sometimes we need to accept that some students are not going to be able to, simply transform themselves from not speaking to the language to speaking confidently in front of their peers in a month. They might need to go through a stage where they're just doing these role plays and reading out. But if they are reading, then that's a step closer to speaking, right? Repeating is speaking. That's why I say start off by doing it in your inner ear. And then as your brain hears yourself speaking English, this is the first step to then saying it out loud, perhaps not in front of the class, but with a partner or in a small group, perhaps doing a kind of telephone chat or a speed date thing in which they have 3 partners and they repeat once and then they repeat the exact same dialogue with another one and the exact same dialogue with another one. Because when we repeat to the same student, it gets kind of boring. But when we have a new partner to work with, it changes things a little bit. So I think that the key secret is keeping things doable. And I definitely believe that using technology, in this case videos, is a way into students' hearts, right? I don't think it's enough to tell them, oh, you can be good at English, you can do this. If they have had traumatic experiences, I don't think they'll believe us. We need to show them. And we're showing them with these very visual videos that are free, that come with their course books, that are directly related to what they are doing in class, and that help them look good in front of their peers. And I think that this is absolutely essential, right? Making them feel good, building up that language learning ego in front of their peers. I hope this answers your question. All right.
Yes, actually, that was really, really clear. And to answer Maggie's question, she's asked me a question, are there any sessions on ESPs? Yes, absolutely. So what I'd like to invite everyone to do, there are almost 250 of you out there. Well, there was at least previously. Follow us on all of our social media. We've got ELT Publishing on Facebook, on Instagram. Sign up on our website. You'll be able to see all of the webinars, future webinars that we're going to be having. This is the first of the year, and there'll be many, many more during the course of the year. So I would like to wrap up the session now by saying, please let us give a virtual round of applause to our speaker, Vanessa Reis. That was a fantastic, fantastic session. Yes, very, very good. And thank you to all of you who joined us live from wherever you are in the world. All over the world, I see you come from many, many different places. And thank you for sharing all of your comments, your questions in the question box this time. Somehow the chat box wasn't really working for us today, but we made up for it. Well done, well done. We will be sending out the recording soon after this session for all of you who have attended today, and all of the materials that you have been asking me for, this will be automatically sent out to you via email. So I'd like to wish all of you and Vanessa a wonderful rest of your day wherever you are in the world. We hope to see you soon, and follow us on all of the social media so you can keep updated on what's happening out there in the ELT world. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.